Well, kia ora and welcome into the Harness Half Hour, proudly brought to you by HRNZ Marketing. I'm Jeff Smith, and our guests today are award recipients Anne Phillips, Ivan Behrns, Amanda Kiddie, Julie Magzhal, Ryan Clements of Catch Driver and Often Pacing Games, and bookmaker Richard Wilson. And here are today's headlines. The NZB Standardbred New Zealand Harness Racing Awards were held at Alexandra Park on Saturday night. And the big winners on the evening were Lazarus, who received Pacer and Horse of the Year. Speeding Spur was Trotter of the Year. Phil and Glenys Kennard were Owners of the Year. And the Outstanding Contribution Award went to Steve and Anne Phillips. For a full list of awards winners, visit hrnz.co.nz. And in racing news, the Spring Cup was won by Northview Hustler, who was rated to perfection in front by Andre Patama for trainer Ray Green. Second was Star Galleria, and third was No Doctor Needed. And the DG Jones Trotting Cup at Banks Peninsula on Sunday saw a number of our top trotters take the grass surface. But it was Destiny Jones and Sam Otley who were successful for trainer Dean Hunter. And just the night before, Destiny Jones had been named last season's Age Trotter of the Year also. We're at the rowdy part of the annual awards, and I'm standing with Anne Phillips, who is one of the co-winners of the Outstanding Contribution to Harness Racing Awards. And you said you're surprised, but surely you couldn't be surprised given how much you've given to this industry.
Well, you don't actually do it thinking you'll actually get recognised. You do it because you enjoy it. And as I just said to you before, I was that surprised I had to put my shoes on before I could go up, because it didn't look right to go up with bare feet.
And you mentioned in your speech that you've been involved since 1982 is that with the education side of things?
Yes, I think it was in 1982 that I first went to cadets to just talk about breeding at the time and farm management, I think, from memory. And then it just got more involved from then on until about the mid-90s when I got more involved and became, the regional director of training up here.
You've been a huge part of the industry in amateur driving and education. What is it that drives the both of you as a unit?
Well, I think it's probably because we both enjoy doing that sort of thing, and we both do it. It would be really hard if only one of us wanted to go and get involved in these things, but knowing that we support each other in whatever part of the industry we get into, we've got each other to bounce ideas off and to talk things through and to get an understanding of what direction we might want to go in. And you can only do that if there's someone close to you can talk about. So I think the fact that we're a partnership is what makes it work.
You've seen some amazing parts of the world and met some amazing people. Are there any memories or highlights that really stand out for you that leap out at this moment?
Well, particularly with the overseas trips, we've made some very, very good friends in both Wales and in various parts of America with the amateur drivers. And people that, when you travel around in a minibus for 10 days, you form really close friendships, and that's been a big highlight for us. Another one was travelling to the World Drivers' Championships in Norway with Peter and Wendy Ferguson, and who are now very close friends of ours, largely based on that trip. But, just worldwide, there's so many places we go where we catch up with people or people who've come down to New Zealand that we've caught up with. Once you're travelling, if you've got an interest in harness racing, you just get on with everybody. It's very easy.
One of the things that you've also done is, I know a lot of the horses you've bred, yourself and Steve have been really keen to get new people involved in the syndication with them.
Right from the early days, actually, when we were with National Bloodstock, we were running the original syndicates that led to National Bloodstock. It was originally Steve's idea to do the syndication, and Dave had the horses, and so that's really how we got started. And we've always enjoyed that. It's a lot of fun winning a race with people that are keen to be there with you. And while we enjoyed our wins, we especially enjoy the wins we can share.
You've got a lot more to give harness racing, I know that, Anne. What would you see the key factors going forward for the youth of the industry? What are some of the main things that we really need to hammer home with them?
I think we've actually achieved a huge amount in the last few years. When you look now how many of our junior drivers can hold their own when they become open horsemen. And I actually put that down to a long time ago when the juniors got concessions to drive against open class horsemen. And then kids' carts preparing kids to be junior drivers has made a huge difference in that they have very, very good horsemanship skills when they become juniors, and are not scared to be on Alexandra Park or Addington because they've been there as, admittedly, driving ponies, but it's still the same buzz for them, and they've been doing that since they were 10. So developing all the skills that they get through kids' carts, and it's not just the horse skills, just their growth as people during kids' carts. And you see a lot of the senior kids' carts, kids being mentors to the juniors, or the younger ones. And so when they then move into the ranks of junior driver and professional horseman, they've just got so many more skills in their skill set to bring to the industry. So I think we've done a huge job. We can never sit still. There's always going to have to be things they can do for the future. But at the moment, I think for the juniors, we're actually ticking along pretty well. They get so many opportunities to drive against professional open horsemen now, and that's the best place for them to learn their skills. You know.
And you and Steve, you're inspirations to this sport. You deserve this award. There's not a person in this room that wasn't surprised that you got this, so congratulations.
Thank you, Jess. And thank you, because you're the kind of people I ring to say you need to do this.
And I'll never say no.
Thank you, Jess.
And in social media news, from New Zealand, Daffodil Race Night at Alexandra Park last Friday featured a celebrity dual sulky race with Sophie Hambleton, who you may know as Carol from Westside, Johnny Bruff, who's Deacon of What We Do in the Shadows, top jockey Sam Spratt, and Ryan Clements, who of course is the founder of Catch Driver, and we'll talk to him very soon on the podcast. And his co-pilot was visiting Canadian driver Anthony McDonald. Sophie Hambleton was the winner, and the video featured on the HRNZ Facebook page and also on the TAB Facebook page as well, so you can catch those replays there. From Australia, Adam Hamilton has been covering the likes of King of Swing, who's been featuring in the open ranks in WA. God Spirit has gone out for a spell, he's got more on that, and Chicago Bull makes his next step towards the New Zealand Cup. And from the US and Canada, the biggest event on the sale calendar in North America kicks off this week, the Lexington Standardbred Sale in Kentucky, along with racing from the Red Mile. To follow the news, you can follow DRF Harness on Twitter and also the Red Mile. Well, continuing our Harness Awards update here for the Harness Half Hour, Ivan Behrns, Syndicate Manager and the owners of Chase Auckland. The emotions after that one, because I guess you thought you were in with a shot, but, you know, winning it's a different reality.
Well, it was, because most of us were waiting to see how it would go during the rest of the season, and he had to go back into the paddock after his curbed hock in the Great Northern Derby, and even during the Derby, Natalie said he didn't feel right coming up the straight. So it was pretty gutting, because the New Zealand Derby was our big aim, and the Jewels wasn't so much, but the Derby. And so we had to swallow our pride and all our disappointment, and we've just been waiting. And then he came back into work, looked $1 million, and then he got up to mischief and tore a major tear in his hind rump. So we had to go back to square one again. So we just can't wait to see him getting back on the racetrack. Yeah.
And all that adversity, does it make it worthwhile when you're standing on a stage like tonight with the 20 owners that have come along with you tonight?
Yeah, it's very humble, really. And I mean, Anne and I, my wife at home, we went and turned on the telly to watch 3 of his replays just to actually absorb how good he is. And I remember seeing Mark in August when he first got ready to go to the trials, qualified and won his first race, and Mark said, now Sire Stakes. And I thought, holy smoly, we've got a horse here, could be a Sire Stakes horse. And suddenly the reality that this horse is extra. And he's just a joy to be around. He's hyperactive, so their skills, you know, through the whole family of Michael in particular, calming him down, so he's a real genuine racehorse. And Natalie, one of her starts said, I'll deliberately sit him without cover just to get him to relax, learn to relax, in case in a big race he might have to be called upon. So all these things have just been a brilliant journey to follow. Yeah, I loved it.
And so what was the premise behind starting the syndicate? Because I know there's a lot of varying characters involved and, you know, people all over the country.
Well, I suggested to Graham that Alabar's never been in a syndicate before, so I thought, well, we'll have a crack at it, which we did. And then you have to then try and get people to invest in it. And luckily we had some great help from Rob Carr from the ATC syndicate in Auckland and Peter Evans from the New Zealand Met Syndicate in Christchurch, and they provided so much expertise. And a lot of the people from their syndicates were looking to get into another one, and at that stage the Met Syndicate had folded up. They weren't running one the next 2 seasons, so they came into ours. And that's how we got some of these people, and some very impressive owners are amongst us and very experienced people, so it's great.
We've used the photo of him here winning the Northern Derby quite a few times for our ownership promotional brochures, because it really is indicative of what syndication can do for the sport.
Wow. Anne and I my wife, we won a race in Invercargill, just the 2 of us, and it felt so shallow and hollow afterwards. Winning the Great Northern Derby and seeing everyone cheering, and I mean, a lot of them, we're all old, and I think, for God's sake, and Michael said, geez, how unruly are they? But in a nice way. Yeah. He said, this is a joy, and they haven't lost it. They're still getting so much fun, and a lot of them said, we'll never have a horse like this again. You know, we've tried for so many years, so we're just enjoying the moment and not getting carried away, but I'm sure he's going to have some big races still in him in the next few years, yeah.
So anyone listening to this interview, Ivan, that's considering getting involved in syndication or joining one, you recommend it, obviously.
Oh, yeah. You've got your initial investment, and then it's up the management of the thing, and you just sit back and enjoy the ride. And you've got to keep... The key is communication to keep it going, because otherwise people start wondering what's happening. So we've got a regular... we've got 2 with Crandell Giddie, and he gives us video reports, and Mark and Natalie are always so good, and Nathan down south. So we've got this communication, and they just feel as though they're part of it. It's their horse, not the managers. Yeah. Well,
congratulations tonight, Ivan, and great to see you rewarded for your hard work with the syndicate.
Appreciate it, Jess. Thank you.
Well, Amanda, Joe's Dream has just taken out the Aged Mare of the Year. You've literally just come off the stage. What emotions are flowing through you?
I'm sort of shocked. I was just proud to have her name up there. Now she's won it. It's like, whoa.
Well, we're not going to try and drag emotion out of you, but a lot of people in there that this means a lot to, obviously, tonight. There was a lot of raw emotion on that stage.
Yeah. It's sort of like, a lot of people see it as one for the little people, I suppose, because I only do 3 or 4, and there's the first horse that the breeders have bred, and as well as, you know, Tony doesn't train anymore. He deserves it too, because he's been in the sport a long time and has been really good to us all. So yeah, it's all team effort.
So Amanda, from the early beginnings in harness racing, where did it all start for you personally?
Well, I've always liked horses, and Mum liked racing, and I wanted to do horses, so Mum got me a job with James Stormont mucking out boxes, and he gave me a drive one day, and that was it. It was all over. As soon as I could leave school, I could. Yeah.
And so what prompted you to pick up the training and move into that side of things, and has anyone been helping you, mentoring you?
I had a go at driving, and that wasn't really my thing. I was always more probably a bit pedantic with the horses. Tony sort of used to let me go for it, wrapping their legs and massaging them and stuff like that. And when he was moving to Woodlands, he said, look, I think you should give this a go. You know, he set me up with a few horses, Brookby Prince, Ideal Flyby, and yeah, I just sort of hit the ground running, really. So
the massage, is that something that you practice and use a lot on the horses?
Well, I use Claire McGowan a lot. Claire and Dave have been amazing to me. I can just ring them up any time of the day and ask them for help, and they will just drop everything to help. So she comes and looks at my horses every fortnight, and I've sort of learnt how to pick up on things and stuff, and I think that helps. So it helps with the day-to-day running of things. So
Amanda, you've had group success, a horse of the year now. The world looks like your oyster.
Yeah. I'm just going to stick to my 3 or 4 and just keep puttering along, and yeah, I'll just see what the future brings.
You might be turning down horses, eh? That's a unique position.
Well, I probably wouldn't mind that, because I've probably got a few of my own I could get rid of and replace with some better ones. But yeah, no, I'll just keep carrying on, and yeah, what happens.
Well, Amanda, congratulations, Joe's Dream Age Pacer of the Year. One for the little guys. Well done.
Thank you very much.
We were here at the Harness Racing Awards and chatting with Julie Magzhal, Habibi Inter and 10 to 1. 2 awards this evening. You must be thrilled.
I'm absolutely delighted. It's family, it's life, and I love my horses.
That's evident, and the passion that you show around these horses, Julie, is there every single time I chat to you. And what encourages you to keep breeding these trotters?
Well, I believe in them, and I don't want to let them go. I get offers to buy them, and I just think, no, they're mine. I've got to look after them. I've got to look after their careers, and I've got to look after their safety. And I've got Paul Nian, who is just amazing, and he does everything so right, and I just feel it's onward and upwards.
So, Julie, in this breeding season, how many mares will you breed to keep the family going?
Well, I've got Bibty Ivy is going to Father Patrick because she's into foal, will go into foal, and then Habibi Inter is my lovely young stallion, which Paul always said right from a baby is the real McCoy, and I'm hoping that I can race him, and then he'll become my lovely young stallion. So I'll have a mare and a stallion, and away we go.
My goodness, Julie. And how do you cap a night like this? Is there anything that you've got on the radar now as an owner and breeder?
Well, it's really funny because I don't care which race I win, but tomorrow I've got the Mochikarara DG Jones Cup. I won it last year with a Bibty Ivy, and in 1977 with my father, Bob Day, won it with, I keep thinking of the name, Western Approach. And so I actually have the memorabilia in my home, and I just want to get the hat trick. So I'd love to win the Dominion, but I'd just be happy to win the hat trick.
Julie, the emotion you've shown tonight has made us all remember what this game means to us. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Jess. I remember you from so long ago, and you've been wonderful, and I just love everybody's been so kind to me. I'm on my own, doing my thing, and I'm doing the best I can.
You deserve it. Well done.
Thank you so much, love.
Well, Ryan Clements, founder of Often Pacing and Catch Driver, we're sitting here in Auckland at the Heritage Hotel. You've made a last-minute decision to come to New Zealand with Anthony and Amy McDonald. Why on earth did you make that call?
Yeah, I was hanging out with Anthony a few months ago, and he mentioned that he was coming to New Zealand. I didn't really know if he was serious. It sounded awesome, so I kind of threw it out there. I'd like, oh, I'd love to come with you, and he expressed that that would be fun, and he'd like to have me join him. So a few more months went by, and we came right up to a couple weeks before, and he mentioned when the dates were, and I said, you know what, all right, I'm booking it. And so I looked at his itinerary and booked the flights and the hotels, and we've been touring around New Zealand for a week now.
And it's fantastic to have you here. We'll talk more about Catch Driver and Often Pacing very shortly in the games and why you're keen to do that. But you've had some great experiences here in the past week. What has stood out to you, and what are some of the similarities and differences between the two racing worlds?
Oh, as far as the racing, it's totally different. We race basically exclusively 1 mile races, and they're going 26-second first quarter right from the get-go, and everybody's getting down to the rail, whereas here it just seems that it's not too much of a rush to start the race because they're going 2,200 meters, 2,600 meters, and so the racing is night and day different. But New Zealand as a whole has been, seems like very similar to Canada. It's opposite side of the world, but a lot of similarities. I don't like the cold, I don't like the wind, and I don't like the rain. We get a lot of that at home, so that part hasn't been enjoyable, but by far the best part of this experience was we got to take a horse out for a work on the beach down in Invercargill, and that was fantastic. You can't do that anywhere at home, and that was the experience of a lifetime.
Did you know that kind of beach work went on here, or has it all been an eye-opener for you?
Yeah, there's a pretty good community on Facebook and Twitter specifically, and you can kind of follow the worldwide harness racing scene on there. So I'd seen some stuff, but it always seemed a world away when you see somebody on a beach. It almost didn't seem real. So to get here and actually do it myself was incredible.
In terms of your family involvement in harness racing, you've got quite a prolific horse tied into your family's heritage.
Yeah, so my grandfather was lucky enough to own Camfella. And I actually live and work on the horse farm where Camfella was racing from. So outside of my office is Camfella's trophy room, Horse of the Year in the United States and Canada, 1982 and 1983. So we sort of have that background, and I look out my window and we still have 20 or 30 horses on Princely Acres today. You're
quite a young guy yourself, early 30s. Is that something that you hear stories constantly about, and you're living, with that euphoria around it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a movie on YouTube called The Camfella Story, and it's an hour-long film on his life, and I've seen it 100 times. I know every race call by heart, and I wasn't alive for any of his races. And There's been parts of my life where I've looked at that and said, and kind of been sad that wished I could have been there. And I show up at a lot of the tracks today, and the grandstand is empty, and there's maybe 20 people watching the races. And in Canada, we have casinos at all of the racetracks, and the slot machines are full. They're all in there playing in the casino, but nobody's out there in the grandstands watching the races. And kind of made me sad to see that this generation isn't engaging with the sport. And I've spent the last few years of my life trying to figure out why that is, because this is an incredible sport. It's exciting. Every time I've brought a friend to the races and they hear a 1,000-pound animal run by at full speed, they fall in love with it. So something didn't add up in my head, and I've been working on trying to solve that problem.
And that brings us to off-in pacing and catch driver. Starting off with off-in pacing, can you explain to our listeners exactly what the game is about and why you made it?
Yeah, so I always wanted to own racehorses, and I never had enough money. It was something that I really wanted to get into. I knew from my grandfather and the excitement that they had with Camfella, I wanted to feel that. I wanted to have a horse on the Grand Circuit and go around and win all these big races. I tried to do a fractional ownership group in the past, and it did pretty well. We had some difficulties, and we introduced probably 100 people into horse ownership through owning small pieces of racehorses, and that was really fun. I wanted to take it to a new level, and I thought of the ability to give people the experience of owning a horse through a game. So often pacing allows you to manage a stable. You're just an owner. You don't drive the horse, you don't train the horse. You buy and sell racehorses and enter them to race, and it's meant to simulate all the feelings of owning a real horse: the anticipation, the disappointment, the excitement when you finally do win a race, and the long wait when you breed a horse. In the game, it takes 26 days for a year to pass. So if you breed a horse today in off-in pacing, he won't be racing for a couple months real time. And that's really unique in the mobile game world, where people want instant gratification. We make them wait for 2 months. But when that horse races, they get a little glimpse of what it feels like in real life to own a horse and wait 2 years for it to hit the track.
And so with the popularity of off-in pacing, the spin-off game that you've now brought out, Catch Driver, is more immediate, isn't it? You can jump in and drive straight away.
Yeah, Catch Driver is just like it sounds. It simulates you being a driver. So sort of a North American Catch Driver, where you just hop in the race. You're not involved with the horses at all. You're not involved in training. You don't manage your own stable. You just race. And you open the app, you hit drive, and you're in a race against 9-10 other people from all around the world. You might be racing against a top driver in Canada, or North America, in America, Australia, anywhere. It's all real time and live.
And it was interesting too, Ryan, during this tour you've been speaking at the beginning of Anthony's seminars, and you've got a bit of a following and a big fan club, particularly in Invercargill of all places.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to see where it spreads. I think it's basically due to Facebook and Twitter, and how the harness racing community is pretty tight-knit, that when we released this game, Off-in Pacing had over 50,000 downloads and had been worldwide wherever there's harness racing. So Catch Driver immediately got out to all those places. Hasn't hit its full potential in New Zealand yet. I think there's still people learning that it exists, but we definitely had a good number of people right from day one.
You've made a lot of connections, Ryan, while you've been here, and in particular, you're very keen to have a look at kids' carts and how you can take that to the next generation in your homeland and around the world.
Yeah, that's been an amazing opportunity. I think I've met about 3 or 4 of the people who run the different chapters of kids' carts here, and we don't race competitively for our youth in North America at all. There's nothing for them unless their parents run a stable. They can work in the barn and learn that way, but there's no competitive element for youth, and I just find that amazing, because every other sport, that's where the future professionals come from, is growing up wanting to be competitive, trying to be the best, and then graduating to the professional level. So as far as our involvement, I want to promote the sport in any way we can, and I find that the youth is the best way to do that, because they're our future.
Absolutely, and going forward, Ryan, you've got a young daughter and a family, and so your hopes for her when she looks at harness racing in the future, what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, through the games, I'm trying to show that there's more to this than the reputation that it's gotten. I grew up, and harness racing had already developed the reputation as maybe maybe more shady, maybe somewhere you don't want your kids to be. And it's to me, it's not that. I go out to a lot of the fair tracks in North America in the summer and see the kids out playing and lawn chairs out and families spending a day together. And it really is an amazing sport that has more to it than just that dark, shady gambling side. And there's just more to this sport. So I want to show people, neither of our games have any gambling in them. And I think that we've proven that people are interested in this sport just for the pure sport of it. So I want my daughter to see every side of this sport. My parents encouraged me to pursue other things and not become a driver trainer. I think mainly because in Ontario the business was looking, the future of the business wasn't solid, and they wanted to make sure that I had something safe to go into, and I appreciate that. But when horse racing's in your blood, a lot of times you just can't go anywhere else. So I'm in the business, but I'm not in the business. Building horse racing video games instead of training horses, and lucky enough I'm on a horse farm, so I still get to get out and jog. But yeah, I would love my daughter to be involved, but to know that there's other options other than maybe getting in the bike or training horses.
Yeah, we've certainly blazed a trail doing that, Ryan. And for those who are intrigued about the game and wanting to download it, is it free, and where can they get it from?
Yeah, it's absolutely free, and if you have an Android or an iPhone, you just go on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, search for Off and Pacing or Catch Driver, and it'll show up at the top of the list. It's totally free. You can choose to pay once you're playing the game if you want more, but the majority of our players play for free.
Fantastic, Ryan. Well, thank you very much for your time today, and thank you for coming down to New Zealand, and more importantly, thank you for taking an interest in the next generation and reaching out to people while you're here. And I'm sure we're going to see Catch Driver and your name associated with a lot of our youth. So thank you very much for caring about the world, not only your homeland.
Well, thank you, and thank all the New Zealand horsemen and horsewomen for being great hosts here. This has really been amazing. I've seen a lot, I've learned a lot, and met a lot of great people.
Well, regular feature here on the Harness Half Hour, of course, is our Bookmaker update with Richard Wilson. And Richard, starting off with Thursday at Winton, we had a twilight meeting there and looked like a smart first-up winner.
Indeed, yeah. On debut there, the Empress, very popular with punters too, she was. $2.10 on opening into $1.95. There was a $3,000 bet early on at the $3.10. That was the best on her, but there were plenty of other smaller ones. And she got home pretty nicely. Found a wee bit of trouble early, but once in the clear out of that, she was way too good. So watch that one. There was a $4,000 bet on Ideal Draw that won the last race. Luckily for me, it was on the top three market, so $1.85, a bit easier to cop than I think it was about $7 that Ideal Draw paid to win. And plenty of happy punters too with Tiziano in race 7. Now, there was no big bet that made the report, but $5.50 on opening into $4.60, and there were a whole heap of bets, $50, $100 bets on Tiziano. So a lot of punters around the country very happy with that one. The real flop of the day probably was in the last race, Ready to Bloom. There was a $6,800 bet on him to win at $1.70, and a whole heap of other bets came unstuck there as well.
All right, so a bit of relief in the last race there with Ready to Bloom. And Friday night we had the double header between Alexandra Park and Addington. It was Spring Cup night at Alexandra Park on Friday and looked like a fairly tough night there, Richard.
It was fairly tough for the punters. The best race of the night was the feature trot. There was only a small field there, but there was plenty of betting action. The best bet of the night came in that race, $1,000 on Temporale at $3.80. Now there's other big bets as well there, $2,000 both on Speeding Spirit $2 and Le Monde at $3. So they ran the placings, but Temporale was too good. Other misses on the night there, $2,500 on Rico Lover at $1.95, $2,000 on Ideal Tiger at $3.80, and there was also $2,000 on Great Fantasy at $3.30. So those ones were pretty tough for punters to take. The best race, though, for punters, again, this one came in the 5th race, Gibson Girl, $2.40 out to $2.60. They sort of sold me a bit of a dummy there. There weren't any massive bets on it, but again, there was a whole heap of $100, $200 bets that got home there. So all around the country, I'm imagining there's plenty of people happy with Gibson Girl. And there was no money early, of course, but then they got involved late. And we lost almost $11,000 on that race.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so that wasn't a good way to end the night. And Friday night, Addington Raceway, slightly easier there for punters.
A little bit easier, yeah. $10,000 major coup in the last. It bolted in at $1.50. There was $1,000 to win at $3.80 and $10,000 a place at $1.45 on Henry Hubert. That one got home. And $1,400 on Stars Tonight at $4.50. So all lucrative bets there. To offset those ones, we had $10,000 to Horo Tees at $4.80 and $3,000 on both Gold Chain at $2.40 and Heisenberg at $1.55. So Henry Hubert beating Heisenberg, whilst we had all that money on Henry Hubert, was sort of a get out of jail with the big bets on Heisenberg. And a good result for punters came with Copperhead Rose, another one of these ones where not one single big huge bet, Jess, but very solid at the $5, and plenty of punters happy with that one. And also Globe Trekker, very solid at $2.60, didn't move and got home well.
All right, and then over to the big meeting at Banks Peninsula. Grass track racing well and truly underway this season, and this has been a bit of a hoodoo track for you, but plenty of movers on the grass.
Yeah, it was shaping up to be another one too, Jess. A lot of big moves yesterday. The first one there, Lot of Muscle, opened at $6.80, charged home to win at $5. I think it was into the $4 range on the tote. There was a $500 bet at the $6.50, the best on him. And the other big mover that got home, Tin Roof Blues in race 4. 35 starts this one had, Jess, for 1 second and 2/3, so open at 19. It seems like a fairly fair price, but that was crunched right into $9.20, led all the way, and clung on quite well to win. So there's a heap of bets on there, $200 at 19, $100 at 15, $100 at 11, and a $250 bet at 10. So again, money well spread around there, but that was a terrible race for us. Thankfully, one plunge that didn't come off was possibly the biggest one. Eureka opened at $3.50, backed into $2.40, and was the best backed on the day. $3,000 at $2.50, the biggest bet. After there was a $500 bet at $3.20, $500 at $2.90, $1,000 at $2.60, and a couple of $300 bets late at $2.40 as well. So plenty of money on Eureka. He went close, but was pipped by Daring Dash. So we owe Daring Dash a drink there. Harry Soul, he was strongly backed late to win the feature trot. $1,000 at $7.80, $500 at $5.80. So everything in between was snapped up as well. There was $3,000 bets on Habibi Inter against him, 2 at $2.60 and 1 at $2.50. So the win of Destiny Jones, very welcomed by us.
So it sounds like a big Sunday afternoon for you and the team. And, of course, we had the Spring Cup run and won by Northview Hustler, and moves in the New Zealand Cup market seeing him pretty much halving his price. Yeah,
81 into 41. That was a pretty good win, Jess. Got to the lead and held on pretty well. Star Galleria, I didn't think lost much with his placing there. $6.50, came into 6. Jack's Legend, that was quite a bad gallop at the start. He really took no part, so he's on the drift a little bit, 10 out to 12. Better Match, and the Aussies didn't go too good on the weekend. Better Match missed out in the Geelong Cup, $15 out to 21, and Tiger Tara 18 out to 26.
All right, and the Dominion Temporale, of course, was a winner on Friday night. How did that affect that market?
Yeah, well, it's created quite a logjam, and just Mombay's still the favourite at $3.90, Jess, but there's a real logjam in behind for second favourite. There's half a dozen horses on $8.50. Temporale's one of those. He was 15 into $8.50. Le Mans came in a bit as well, 15 into $9.50. Speeding Spurs on the drift, $6.50 out to $8.50. Destiny Jones, after that win on the grass, 41 into 21. And Gentleman Sir, another one to gallop in Australia, he's 41 out to 81.
All right, and don't forget tab.co.nz for those markets, also New Zealand free-for-all futures and the Interdoms pacing and trotting markets. And Richard, you always find us a multi of the week to highlight just how much money can be made for a small outlay, and this one's a beauty. Yep,
this is a good one down there at Winton. $15 was the total amount spent just on a treble. Queen of the Night at $3.30, Zanola's Art at $8.50, and ending on Robin's Playboy at $6. So that $15 returned $2,524.50.
Beautiful. And the week ahead, what have you got coming up book-wise?
Yeah, we're starting to get right into the action now. There's Cambridge on Thursday, Addington on Friday with the Group 2 Canterbury Classic. Hopefully Ultimate Machete will be in that one, and a whole heap of other Cup contestants. So we'll get a real good line on the Cup this week. Then the Northern Southland Club race at Invercargill on Saturday and Timaru on Sunday.
Sounds like no rest for the wicket in your team.
No, it's good though. There's only about 6 weeks to go till the Cup, so things are really starting to hot up.
My goodness. Well, thank you so much, Richard. Appreciate your time as always, and we'll catch you next week.
Yep, not a problem, Jess. Very good.
And what's coming up in harness racing action this week? On Thursday night, we've got Cambridge Raceway. Friday, we'll see Addington taking centre stage with feature harness action. Saturday, Northern Southland Harness. And Sunday, Timaru in South Canterbury. And don't forget, New Zealand Cup tickets are on sale now via addington.co.nz. They are selling very, very quickly, and we are just 6 weeks away from New Zealand's biggest racing week. So don't miss out on your tickets. Book early. And that's it for this week's Harness Half Hour. Thanks to HRNZ Marketing. Don't forget the Harness Half Hour podcast is now available on the Punters Lounge on tab.co.nz, also on Spotify and iTunes.